I'm so glad you joined us today for our episode of Life Changing Word. If you were with us last week, you heard us talk about the family and some of the issues we deal with in America today, and actually probably all around the world. And once again, I have Pastor Gary with me as we continue on talking more about this subject and how we can keep it real about dealing with the issues that family deal with and the roles and stuff that we need to play.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the husband's expectations and his role. And we'll start there and see where it goes from there.
Sure, absolutely. You know, and for the ladies that are out there, this may look like a real male perspective, but we're really trying to be sensitive to the female side. We've both been married together over 40 years, so we have a little bit of insight on that. And if your husband's home, tap him on the shoulder and tell him to come sit down and watch. But really, the husband's role in the family, and it's such a heavy responsibility. And maybe sometimes the women don't understand this, but the husband's role is such a heavy responsibility because they are called and ordained by God to lead. Mm-hmm. They're called to provide and to protect. They're called to watch over their family and make decisions that are best for everybody. And that's not easy. It takes wisdom. No. It takes prayer. It takes study. It takes forethought. It takes a sensitivity to mom and the kids and not so much about me, but what does my family need? He's really the shepherd of his home. That's really what he is. Some call him the priest of his home. Mm-hmm. And so the role is a very heavy responsibility. And ladies, I charge you to pray for your husbands for wisdom on leading their families.
Yeah. So, sometimes don't you think us as men, sometimes we only get locked in on one of those roles and we forget about the others. Like maybe we focus in, well, I'm provider, you know, I got to work, I'm working 60 hours a week because you want this or you need this, and we push aside these other roles or make them less important instead of looking at the whole enchilada, so to speak.
Let me use your life for example. I mean, you have a small ranch and you have crops, you have cattle, you have a lot of issues going on. You couldn't just focus on one to the neglect of all the other. You have to think about your entire operation and every component that has to keep running, whether you delegate it out or take care of it yourself. And it's the same in the home. There's not just one aspect of being a leader and a father and a husband. There are multiple aspects. And the guys that get it done well are aware of that and they're getting it done.
Yeah, and of course, at the core, at the center of it, has to be the relationship with Jesus Christ. I mean, if you don't have that, everything else is just going to, well, it's going to be in your own strength and it's going to fall apart someplace along the way. It's going to unravel.
And there's probably some men watching who commute to work over an hour every day.
Yeah.
They're tired. When do I get to spend time with God, spend time with my wife, take care of the kids, have time for myself? It's not easy juggling it. And so I would simply say, be creative. Look at your schedule. Do you have to turn the radio on in the car? Do you have to play a tape? Do you have to listen to the talk show? Why not let that commute time be a time of communing with the Lord?
For me, I used to always joke with Pastor Bob, some of the best time I had was my tractor time. When I'm out on the tractor, man, that was some of the greatest times that I had with the Lord, because you're out there for hours, and instead of just, you know, I don't know, putting on a set of headphones and listening to whatever or something like that, you sit there and you start talking with God, and He'd use what I was doing so often.
Let me ask you this. Do you think God wanted to be there on the tractor with you?
Oh, heck yeah.
Absolutely. He wants to be involved in what we're doing, no matter what it is. He wants to be involved.
Hey, when I ride my motorcycle, he goes with me. You know what I mean?
He better.
Yeah. You know how I drive, huh? Yeah. But yeah, maybe that's what we don't realize, that he wants to be where we are. And he wants to be involved in what we're doing. Maybe we struggle with that.
And then if a husband is diligent to make sure his family is in church at least once a week, if not twice, if you can go to a Wednesday night Bible study, just to continue walking and being encouraged and growing and being under the teaching of the Word, that's what God is asking. He knows that we have to work. And you know, the Israelites, if you think about it, they worked 6 days from sunup till sundown, and then they took a day to spend with God. And so God understands that we have to work and provide and all the responsibilities that go with us. He just wants to be a part. So once a man can understand his relationship with God, all the responsibilities, being sensitive to the needs of his family, then you're going to see some joy in that home. But that's what most young guys don't understand. They just think it's all about sex. They just think it's all about, hey, it's going to be fun. And, we have to remind them of the responsibility factor.
I had a young man last night, in fact, in our men's group say, well, Well, I was always been told that once you get married, it gets easier. And all of us that were married in the room, we just started laughing. Oh, yeah, where did you hear that from? Out of the pit of hell? We joked last night. But yeah, you're right. I don't think they realize that when you take that step of commitment, man, things change.
Things change. And women are different than we are. Remember, God said that I provide you a helpmate. She's completely different. She's the balance. You're one way, she's another way, and she is a helpmate. And so often we try to make our mates look like us, act like us, talk like us. And if they were, then they wouldn't need us.
Yeah.
You know, and so we need to applaud their differences.
You know, I think one of the things men struggle with is sometimes we think our wife is our enemy. Well, you're always opposing me on this. Or why are you always correcting me and all this? And what I've had to learn over the years is that, you know what? I have blind spots. I am dumb in some areas. Just, you know, I'm totally oblivious to things because of the way I'm created. When my wife is created differently, she was brought to me by God. I can look back as a heathen and see how God orchestrated the whole thing and brought her into my life. So I can see now how God's hand orchestrated it.
She's
yeah,
the balance.
And she sees those things that I have no clue about, or she'll warn me about something and I'm, oh, well, you know, I'm totally oblivious to. And I have learned, I've had to train myself, learn to hear what she's saying and heed what she's saying.
And the difficulty for the female is she has to remember that she is your balance. She is my balance. But she's not to usurp her authority. Mm-hmm. She's not to take authority and run the home because she sees your areas of difference as a lack. Mm-hmm. That's when the lack of respect comes in. And the word respect has to do with a view of someone in a very lofty way. And when a woman loses respect for her husband, she no longer wants to submit, she wants to run the game. And when she wants to run the game, then her actions won't be loving to the husband.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's one of the things I know the Lord He's been teaching me, and just happens to be what I'm on right now with the Lord, is the whole about the kingdom of God and how a kingdom and how we've been set as kings, and God gives us kingdoms to set over, and one of those kingdoms is our family. And as a good king, just as Jesus and God's my king, there's a way that I need to operate. You know, I'm sitting there as a king provides for his citizens. There's a kingdom. A king protects. A king directs. A king helps them accomplish, you know, all those things that God has created those people and citizens to be. So I start looking at it from that perspective, that's my role, not to rule it over, but as a good king that takes a responsibility. It says, you know, I need to watch over my family. I need to encourage my daughter, encourage my wife in who God has created them to be. Yeah. I'm to provide for them. I'm to speak those words of encouragement, to put forth decrees. Just like God does, that's bringing life, bringing correction or whatever it is, and that's really helped me.
That's good. That's good.